Relationship. Very interesting. Family systems researchers have found that the best way to study what goes on in a person's relationship is to look at what is called groups of three or relational triangles. Very interesting. This is not what most of us think. If we wanted to understand, for example, the way that a mother and a daughter would get along, we would probably assume that the most logical thing would be to focus on just two of them and the dynamic between two of them. Okay? What do they do when they're together? How do they relate to each other? How do they communicate with each other? Does that make sense? Right? So you want to know dynamic between you and your parent, right? So you do one-on-one and you see the dynamic. Jeremy, if you could read the next one for us. Okay, so very interesting. So again, most of us think, again, if you want to see a dynamic between two people, the best thing is just look at the dynamic between two people. But researchers are actually starting to say, no, put another person in there, then you're going to see their real dynamic. Okay, here's an example, loan. Okay. Okay, so again, you see two people, they're madly in love. Okay. Then again, the thing is, they're in their own little bubble here. So all you're seeing is them too. But again, because they're not able to really see the dynamic or the underlining stuff, because maybe they're really used to it, we're not able to really get a full glimpse of what their relationship really looks like. Until, again, you put a third person. Then you see the way they all relate to each other. And by doing that, then we're able to see their true relationship. Okay, what their relationship is really made of. Okay, so that's kind of where we're getting at. Okay. All right, Esther. Right. And again, it's kind of like a third person party. You know, it's kind of like this. You know how when you are in a fight with somebody, it's like so frustrating because you're just like, I'm right. And that's why you're fighting, right? Because you're like, I'm right. And that person's like, no, I'm right. But the thing is, when you are a third person, then you clearly see what the issue is. But when you're in the midst of the fight, it's really hard to see exactly what's going on. Does that make sense? And that's exactly what's going on with these. That's why this triangle relationship is going to be very helpful. Because when you're in that, you know, you and your mom or you and your dad only, then you're not able to see all the, again, we talked about this, right? The rules, the unwritten rules, the patterns, you're not able to see that as well. But when you put a third person in there, then you're able to actually see that a lot more clearly. Okay, let's go a little bit more. Danielle? Okay. Does that kind of make sense? So usually, like the mother-in-law, right? The in-law usually comes, and then like it's kind of usually a very uncomfortable situation for everybody in the household, right? So again, that shows you something about your relationship then with your wife or with your husband. Because just because someone came into a picture, that doesn't mean that your relationship is going to break down. Okay? But if it does that, then again, then we could see that there's already some fractures in the relationship that you were just not able to see. Does that make sense? Okay, so again, it shows you the reality of the relationship. By the way, for those of you guys who are not married, I think this is actually a very good wisdom. I heard it before too, but they say that if you really want to get to know a person, like don't just hang out one-on-one, okay? But actually like hang out with friends, like see them in like when they're with their parents, because how they treat their parents and how they treat their friend, okay, of course they could fake it for a long time, but most of the time their real self comes out. Why? Because again, the dynamic, it's not just between you and her or him, you and him. There's another, or there's more, right? More relationships. And because of that, you're able to see more of who they are. Does that make sense? Okay, so again, obviously you could do this with even like 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, but it gets a little complicated. But we're just gonna go with the triangle. All right, any questions so far? For these reasons, I have found that examining the triangle relationship in a family is one of the best ways to examine the dynamics of that family system. After completing the family genogram, the next thing to do is to chart the triangles. Okay, so now after you have done this, okay, so pick 3 people. Obviously, you're gonna be in one of them, or you don't have to actually, but you could start actually doing that. All right. Jeremy? Okay, do you guys see that? Okay, so again, it's like this right here. So what does this one mean? So there's 2 people right here, person number 1, person number 2. You draw a line, that means what? A straight line, that's going to be, there's a connection, that they like each other. Okay, there's no tension. Okay, and then right here, this one, obviously the opposite. They kind of want to get away from each other. Very uncomfortable. Okay, this is what you're doing. Lone? This kind of reminds, do you guys remember the movie Notebook? Yeah? Okay, only the girls are like, yeah. But I feel like it's kind of like that. Do you remember like they're like so like passionately in love, and they're like fighting each other, they're like in conflict, and then like they love each other so much so they start like making out and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's kind of, again, just because there's conflicts, or just because a couple is very aggressive with each other, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a fractured or the wiggly line relationship. Okay, as long as they're willing to still stick together and work together and love each other, okay, that's still a connected relationship. Does that make sense? Though, so this is not necessarily, this thing is not necessarily like the health of the relationship. Okay, like as in like whether they had a conflict or not. Okay, and we're gonna see the opposite as well. Esther? Okay, does that make sense? So again, it's not conflicts, okay? But again, it's this idea of like emotional connectiveness. Is there emotional connectiveness? Then straight line. If there isn't, then the wiggly line. Make sense? All right, so we have 4 different triangles that we're going to be going over. Putting together the various combinations of straight line and wiggly line relationship produce 4 types of triangle. Number 1. Okay, so this one, what do you see? There's 3 people and all of them have straight line. So this is obviously the best type of relationship. Okay, where literally everybody likes each other. Okay, now we're going to get to the worst, the other extreme, which is everybody do not like each other very much. There's always some kind of emotional disconnect or something going on. Okay, they do not want to connect with each other, all 3 of them. But then obviously we're going to talk about it, but this is going to break down. This is not much of a relationship. It's not going to last. Next one. Okay, then what do you see here? This one is what? One person, okay, has bad relationship with what? 2 people. Okay, so for example, one example could be when 2 brothers, like when 2 sibling of gender, okay, picks on like 2 brothers pick on a little sister or something like that. Okay, so the brothers are okay. The brothers, they have a solid line. Do you see that? But they're picking on the little one. So something like that. Or maybe like a mom and dad, they're okay. But with their kids, right, there's wavy line. Okay, both of them, they cannot connect with their daughter. Okay, that's an example. Let's go to the 4th one. Now, what do you see here? This one is the flip of this. So one person, okay, there's 2 people that have good relationship, but one, they do not. Okay, so for example, maybe the mother and the son, okay, oh sorry, wait, no, this is mother, and son has a good relationship, and mother and father have a good relationship, but father and son do not have a good relationship. Does that make sense? Okay, so again, this is what you guys want to do. Once you're done with your genogram, okay, start grabbing people and start to see, okay, what's the dynamic between us 3? And then next people, and then keep doing that and see what you can find out. Okay, by doing this, we're gonna see a couple of things. Danielle. Okay, so basically there's four types we talked about. 2 of them is okay. 2 of them is it's gonna most likely in the long run the relationship is gonna fizzle out. Like it's unstable. It's not gonna work out. unless they turn into the healthy one. Basically, think of it as 2 healthy and 2 very unhealthy. Does that make sense? And so 2 healthy, it's going to last. And if the 2 unhealthy doesn't become healthy, then this relationship is going to basically just explode. Like there isn't much of a relationship. Does that make sense? All right, my turn. The first balance triangle is the one composite of the 3 straight line. Okay, which is the first one. Everybody's relationship is good. So obviously that's good, right? The triangle composed with all the wavy line is unbalanced. So therefore it is unstable. Does that make sense? So that's pretty simple. That's pretty easy, right? The first one, that's healthy. Everybody likes each other. This one is pretty simple, right? Everybody do not like each other. So if everybody do not like each other, then they're not going to have a relationship. That makes sense, right? Okay. Now the third and the fourth one, that's a little confusing, but I'm going to explain it, okay? Jeremy? Okay, so let's look at it. Okay. Wait, which one is it? Hold on. Third triangle, which 2 are aligned against 1, where 2 are aligned against, okay. Where 2 are aligned against 1. Okay, this one. Yeah. So this one's okay. Okay, this is more balanced. Okay, obviously it's not most ideal, but this is okay. Because at least there's 2 people, okay, who are trying to satisfy this person. Or who are trying to make this relationship better. Does that make sense? It's 2 versus 1. So in that sense, it's balanced. Okay, but the last one, Jeremy. Right. Okay, so again, you're right here, and you like this coworker, and you like this coworker, but the coworkers don't like each other, then what's going to happen? Right. You're just going to have a one-way relationship with it. This 3 is not going to work out. Does that make sense? So again, first one, healthy, unhealthy. Healthy, unhealthy. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Oh, hold on, let me get rid of that. Okay. What happened here? Okay, sorry. Hold on. Okay. Loan. If you could continue for us. Okay. What? Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Wait, what is it? Uh-huh. How do you pronounce it again? Okay, that sounds same to me. Sorry. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh, long. Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay. Go for it. Uh-huh. Okay, so once again, like just like what I told you guys before, these four right here. Oh, shit. Okay, the first one and the third one right here, it's okay. Okay, you could, I mean, the third one obviously again, it's not ideal, but it could last. But these two, unless something changes, okay, it's not going to last. So again, when you guys are doing your genogram, then you could say, oh, this is why the relationship doesn't work. That's why when I'm with this person and this person, there's always a tension. And I'm trying really hard, but it still doesn't work. Does that make sense? So it gives you dynamic between the relationships and see why some of this is not working out or why where the problem really lies. Does that make sense? Because you might think, I just need to try harder. But again, if you're in a state where like this, maybe your mom and dad, they don't have a good relationship, you're trying just harder and harder and harder, you're not actually getting to the solution of the problem. Because you trying harder, yeah, it's creating good relationship with you and your mom and your dad, but this is not helping. They need to get help. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. So again, it's because these two people are at least holding it together. And they're both trying to make the relationship with this person better. Yeah. So for me too, honestly, I don't really understand exactly. He doesn't really give a perfect example of the balance unbalance, but that's what he believes that basically I think it's more of the health of the relationship. Like the first one and the third one, it could continue on. Whereas the second one and the fourth one, like it's just gonna, like it just cannot continue. I think that's what, yeah. Yes, I think so. Yeah, yeah. I know, yeah, for me too, I was a little confused by, yeah, what he meant by balance and unbalanced. But I think for me, it's easier to think of it as just healthy and unhealthy. Yeah, dynamic. Okay, very good. Okay, let's go to the principle. Where are we? Is it Esther? Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh-huh. Keep going, Esther. Okay, so there's two principles that we need to learn. First one, again, is that if 2 and 4, I already said it, but if 2 and 4 do not become 1 or 3, which is a healthy, okay, obviously healthy is, healthier, then the relationship will not work out. But even if you are here, your goal is to get either here or here. If not, then there will be issues within the relationship. Okay, that's number one. And the second thing is kind of like the in-law thing. Okay, let's say you say, oh yeah, me and my wife, we have such a good relationship, but we just don't have good relationship with my mother-in-law. Okay, but whenever she shows up, this starts happening. Does that make sense? Like you start fighting and you guys don't like each other, then what it's saying is, no, the third person never changes your dynamic. The third person just shows you your dynamic. So before, there was already some fractures before. The third person just shows you, reveals the true nature of the relationship. It doesn't create it. So one example is like imagine like an old bridge, but then like whenever normal people walk on it, it's kind of like, oh, you don't see anything. But imagine like a big truck goes over the bridge, then you start to see some of like the cracks. because it's so heavy. Okay? It's not that the truck itself is creating the cracks. The cracks were already there. It's just that there needed to be some kind of weight to actually show the reality of it. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So again, not only that, but the characteristic of any two given relationship will remain the same. That's what I'm saying. Okay. It will always remain the same, no matter what the third party is added. So he's going to give an example. Sometime a person, I gave you the same exact example, but here we go. Sometime a person will say, my brother and I get along great. But then something interesting will happen. When I draw a triangle to include his mother, there's a straight line between him and his brother. But then when I try to add in his father, he says, well, 3 of us never could hit it off together. In that case, you'd have to put the wavy line between my brother and me. Does that make sense? So again, he's saying, me and my brother, we're totally fine. Okay, let's put mommy. Oh, we love our mom. So all of us, we have a good relationship. But when dad comes into the picture, then all of us are wiggly. Right? Because we don't have a good relationship, and all of a sudden, this relationship falls, me and my brother relationship falls apart too. And he's saying, no, that can't be right. There's got to be something wrong. Okay? And so he says, my response would be, something's not right. Experience shows that the quality of your relationship with your brother should remain the same, no matter what third party we include. I would then probe more deeply to see if the individual is not either idealizing his relationship with his brother in the first setting or wrongly estimating the negative impact of his father in the third setting. The book gave an example, and I'll give it really quickly. So same exact scenario with a daughter and her daughter and daughter's stepfather. She continues to say, I have a great relationship with my stepfather, not grandfather, stepfather, sorry. But then when the counselor started putting different relationship in there, they started to see some fragments in between. Okay, so eventually she fessed up and she actually said, oh, like he abused me. Okay, so but she didn't want to admit that. She wanted to, like, she created another persona of him and said, no, like he's a good person, he's a good man. But because he couldn't make, and that's how she handled maybe the pain, because she couldn't handle it. And so she continued to say, no, we have a good relationship, but actually by doing this triangle, she actually saw the truth of the relationship. Does that make sense? And this is where triangle, it could be very helpful, because again, you go, oh yeah, I have no problem with my mom. I have a problem with my dad, but I don't have a problem with my mom. But you put a third person in there, you put another thing, and does that relationship with your mom change or not? If it does, then again, there might be something there. And that's how it's very helpful. Okay. Jeremy? Okay, so again, these are some of the questions that you can start asking. Okay, but again, the best thing you can do is you and another person, okay, draw the dynamic and then start putting in different relatives, different people in there. Does this dynamic change? If it does, again, that's a flag. Okay, maybe you're not assessing it right, but there might be something else that deeper inside that you didn't really think about. Okay, or maybe you don't want to think about. Okay, this is the last slide. Loan. Okay. So again, this is going to be very helpful if you do have another person that you could talk to, even again, your husband or your wife or even your friends that you have. Obviously, counselor is going to be the best. But if you have somebody, even a third person's point of view, and you tell the story, and as you're talking about the story, again, there might be things that your friend or somebody might see that that you haven't realized because you have taken it for granted. So again, doing the triangle by yourself is going to be helpful. But if you want to take it to another level, like actually doing it and then showing it to somebody and trying to talk to them about it, maybe there's something that doesn't make sense, then they could give you a different perspective. Danielle? Okay, so again, the four things with genogram, it's going to be the rules, unwritten rules, or the spoken rules, the patterns, and then the last one we talked about right here pretty extensively is the triangle relationships. And these are the tools, different tools, to help you diagnose. Okay, maybe, okay, do I have some stuff from my parents? Maybe you know it already, but you weren't able to really articulate it or pinpoint exactly what it was. These things will definitely help. Esther? Okay. So again, the reason why we're looking back is not to get stuck in the past, but it's so that we could move forward. Okay, but again, if we want to move forward, we got to face some of the things that plagued us so that we don't make same mistakes or we don't repeat some of the stuff that we have down to our next generation either. Okay, so once again, the whole reason why we're doing this is so that we can diagnose what the issue is so we can find some healing. Let's go into our review and then we will finish up. Let me stop this really quick.